Okay, potters, I'm going to show you how to dip glaze your cylinder. So for your cylinder project, everybody will be choosing one of these glazes here. On the glaze is a little color field of what color it ends up to be. I've also written non-stable, which means will drip, and stable, no drip, on each of the glazes. If you use a non-stable glaze, which means it has a tendency of dripping, when you dip it in, I would leave a ½ inch or so from the bottom so that if that glaze does drip, it doesn't drip all the way down to the kiln shelf and ruin your pot. The stable glazes are fine to go down probably to like your undercut. For this project, you're only choosing one glaze, okay? So I don't want anybody thinking, oh, this will be awesome, I'll dip it in 3 different glazes, because too much glaze will bubble and also definitely have drips. So just for your quick reference, here's our glazing expectations. This is what we're going to be going over in the video. We're going to rinse your pot under the faucet. Make sure that your hands are clean before you pick up your bisque pot. You don't want to have clay on your hands and then contaminate your pot. You're going to get a sponge so you can keep your area clean. Do not contaminate the glazes. So you don't want to accidentally like splash some of this glaze into another glaze and contaminate them. You don't want to make sure that you stir up anything with something that's dirty or use a cup that's dirty to contaminate the glaze. Wipe off the bottom portion to prevent dripping. So if you're using one of those unstable glazes, and if you go down a little too far, you just need to take a sponge and kind of thin that bottom part out or wipe it off. Definitely make sure there's no glaze on the bottom of the pot. If you have glaze on the bottom of the pot, when it's fired, it will stick to the kiln shelf. It will ruin your pot. It will ruin our kiln shelf. But actually, backing up, if you have glaze on the bottom of your pot, we will reject it, and you can find it on the rejection shelf in the back. When you're done, you're going to put your pot on the final glaze firing shelf in the back room. So here we go. First step is to rinse your pot. Inside, outside. Again, you want to make sure you don't have any lotion or anything on your hands, because that can mess up the glaze. So I'm rinsing the pot out. And then I'm actually going to tip it upside down right there while I get the rest of my glazes, or the rest of my stuff set up. So I'm going to choose to do this blue purple. It's a non-stable glaze, so it will drip. When you open up the bucket, you're going to find a stirrer in here. This glaze is really thick. And you want to take time to really stir this glaze up. If your glaze is not stirred properly, it will not work the way it's supposed to. So, stirring it up and down, side to side. It should all be the same consistency. If it appears to be thinner on top, you need to stir it more. Okay, so once I have it stirred, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab a cup. You want to make sure that the cup is clean. This cup looks a little bit dirty, so I'm going to wash it out. Again, you don't want any dirty cups because that will contaminate the glaze. So now I have a nice clean cup. I like to put the lid here, and you'll see why in a second. So this technique is called dipping. And what you're going to do is first you're going to do the inside of your pot. So you're going to take your cup, put glaze in it, put the glaze inside. This cup's kind of small, so I'm going to do 2 cups. It just depends on how big your pot is. And then I put my cup here, and then you're going to quickly switch it to your right hand, and you pour it out as you twist your wrist. And you can see how that's coating the entire inside as it's dipping out. And you kind of twist it back and forth a little bit to get that extra glaze out of the inside. Then you take your fingertips, and you're going to hold onto your pot, and you're going to dip it down into the glaze. This is a non-stable glaze, so I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom. Lift it up, and then you work on your arm muscles because you have to hold it like this until it stops dripping. Doing a little shake will help. So once I'm done here, it's still dripping, hold on. Okay, we're gonna pretend like this is done dripping. So once it's done dripping, you're gonna flip it up, and then you're gonna come over to your table. And this is how, you don't wanna touch this because it's still wet. You're gonna bend down by the table, and you're gonna slip it on to the table without touching. That will allow the rest of it to dry. When it is dry, double check the bottom to make sure there's no glaze on it, and then go put it back on the cart to be fired. And in a few days, it'll come out on the pickup cart all finished. All right, let's get to work.